Welcome to the School Owner Talk podcast, the longest-running martial arts school owner podcast in our industry. Join Duane Brumitt and Allie Alberigo as they share expert insights, proven strategies, and the keys to growing your martial arts business. Let's take your school to the next level. And now here's our hosts, Duane and Allie.
Hey everyone, welcome back to School Owner Talk. Of course, I'm Duane Brumitt. I've got questions, for you today. But before we get into some of those things, nearly 3 decades of owning a martial arts school, and I keep coming back to this paradox. And we're gonna, are we running a hard business, or is this the easiest business?
Yeah, listen, I think that everyone seems to think that, this has been driving me crazy for 25 years. Coaches and consultants and bigwigs in the martial art industry will always say, it's not rocket science. It's not a difficult business. So it's kind of a loaded question, is this the easiest or the hardest business? But I think that every school owner that's listening right now, or possibly people that listen after we record and release, there are some days that, you'll feel like it's the most rewarding and straightforward thinking, progress in the world and program and business. And there are other days it feels impossible, complex, and exhausting.
Exactly. So today, we're going to dive into both sides of this paradox. So hold on tight.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about why running a martial arts school can feel easy at times, and why it can feel like the hardest thing you've ever done in your entire life. And listen, I've run multiple businesses. Like I've run a landscape construction company. I ran a paint business, a tile setting business. I've run jewelry sales and companies. And I personally feel that this is the most difficult business that I've ever run.
Well, hopefully by the end, you, but also our listeners, feel a little less alone, in whatever they're experiencing right now.
Okay, so let's just jump in and talk about what you think is the hardest or the easiest business there is.
And look, the title might kind of sound contradictory, right? At first, that we're running a complex or hard business, but it's the easiest business to be in. And right. Whether, I don't care which side of the coin that you're on, and we've all felt that way, where we've been on both sides of the coin, where, man, this is just going great and it's super easy, and then all of a sudden it becomes really, really hard. And so I think, to me, some of the hardest moments, I remember when I quit my day job and started to do this full time. That was a very hard moment for me, because obviously finances were tough. I wanted to make a go at it. That was a hard moment. I remember the first time I had to kick out a student and let their parent go. It was really the parent. It wasn't the kid. Yeah. And with that, that was a hard moment for me. Yeah. I remember, and I don't know if I've talked about this on this podcast. Remind me if I have. You may not even remember if I have. I know I've talked to you personally about this, but I had a instructor who, man, I remember the night too. He left the studio one night and went and kidnapped his girlfriend at her house, and her girlfriend's friend was there. The friend's child was there, and the girlfriend's mom was there. Ending up, by morning, he let the kid and her mom go, but he ended up killing his girlfriend, the girlfriend's mom, and then taking his own life. Wow. I mean, that was extremely hard, because I thought I was going to lose everything at that point, because here I am, he's an instructor, and then that happened. So I say all that, and financial stress, even coming sometimes to, like, why am I still doing this? Or why am I doing this?
That all the time. Every day I ask myself that question.
Yeah. So some of those some of those hard moments make what we do so difficult. A parent that is a problem, or
Right.
a problem with a parent that is difficult to overcome. I mean, that's
Mhm.
I think those are some of the things that make our, what we do so difficult.
Yeah, and look, we're not complaining, and we're not, on the other hand, if we talk about great things, we're never bragging. We're just being honest and sharing. And quite often, Duane, I get behind the scenes comments from our listeners that say, thank you so much for just being open and honest and sharing with us how you feel and what you go through. Because, listen, everyone wants to, the fake influencer podcaster people that are out there standing in front of a mansion with a Lamborghini in the driveway, and they're shooting photos saying, look at me, I'm so successful. And then the guy opens the door and says, get the hell off my property. Like, what are you doing here? And then the podcaster runs away because it's not true. None of it's true. Like, we all go through struggles. And one time I was doing a seminar for Member Solutions, and I was doing one of their conventions. And I made a few jokes during my speech and talking, about how hard it is sometimes to teach kids and they drive you crazy. So afterwards, people were filling out, cards on what they thought and what they learned. And I read one of them, and it's like, you shouldn't talk that way negatively about people because, everyone has their own. And I'm like, shut up. How long have you been going? Like, how long have you been teaching? Like, wait till you've been doing this for 15, 20 years. You're going to bound to run into situations that drive you absolutely nuts. Right now, you've been doing this for 2 years. You're on the up, and you're happy, and everything is easy. But, it's not always like that. And we like to share that with our listeners.
Yeah. So I know we talked about some of the hardest, and there's different hardest that we all have. I don't know. Besides, oh gosh, having somebody sexually assaulted in your
Right.
studio. I mean, I don't know how much harder you get when you have an instructor that kidnaps and kills people. So,
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, look, I just out to breakfast, and this is not about an instructor doing anything, but one of my friends who I went out to breakfast with said, oh, remember so and so? And I said, oh, yeah, I remember him. He goes, yeah, because he actually was one of my students, and he passed away during a sword class. He was cutting with the sword, and my student was facing the other direction. He heard a thump on the floor. He turned around, and he was laying on the ground, ran over, tried to revive him, called 911. He had what was called a widowmaker, and
oh
he
gosh.
passed away right on the floor. And nothing to do with us. They said nothing you could have done would have ever helped him. Was It's time to go. And now this guy was a runner, a spelunker, cave dweller, like going through, scuba diving. He seemed like he was in the greatest of shape. No one could ever tell that he had a defect in his heart that was hidden for 45 years. But anyway, so things like that. And then, we go back over, like, I've had some groups of people that were parts of my demo team, or they created a little coup in the school, and no matter what I did, they would all band together to talk negatively about me. And always try to talk loudly when new prospects came in about the negative stuff. And like, once I was doing a fundraiser to raise money for a charity, and I also said part of the fundraiser would be to update our outside playground. We have a huge, massive 1 acre piece of property. I said, we're going to put in new mulch and paint all the stuff. And I had them all band together and tell me, like, how dare you ask for money? It's your business. You should pay for it yourself. What are you asking for us to donate? Blah, blah, blah. And it was just always a stressful time with them. And I eventually ended up kicking out. There was about 12 of them. I had to kick every one of them out. There was a big loss of income. But let me tell you, when I finally kicked them out, and people found out about it, and someone said, hey, Sean, I heard you got rid of the trouble. And I'm like, yeah, I did. And it was like one person, and then a slow clap, and like everyone was like, and then all of a sudden the lobby was, everybody was clapping. Like, I had no idea how toxic they were and how the good people were being affected by it. They were so happy to be rid of them, and I tolerated far too long. So those are situations where you got to be really careful.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of swing it to the upside now, right?
Yeah.
Some of the easiest moments, obviously, when class runs perfect. You
Right.
hardly ever have that right? But
Right.
when you do, man, it sure makes everything, like everybody was engaged, everybody was high energy, everything
Yeah.
just clicked. And we've all had those classes, um, student breakthrough, where this student finally, you can see the shy kid, um, you know, he or she speaks up.
Yeah.
The struggling, even the struggling student that nailed the technique this time, and you're like, hey,
Yeah.
yes, how did that feel? Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that felt so good. Or a parent testimonial saying thank you for what you've done and how this has impacted, reminding you really why you are,
Yeah.
you got into this in the first place, probably, right?
I had last year. I had one of my autistic kids who I swear to God was going to put me in my grave early when he first joined the school. Right now, he's been with me for like 3 years. He would run out of the classroom, lay on his back, put his feet up on the wall, scream, and his name is Caleb. And his dad came to me at the last year's Christmas party, and he literally had tears coming down his face, and he said, "You have changed my son's life. Everyone in his life has said it, his teachers, his aides, his, whatever, that he is a different kid." And I mean, of course it has to do with growth and growing up and other things, but the parents recognized that our discipline in the martial arts was a major factor. And that touched my heart. And I'm talking about it a year later now. It's still in my head fresh. And it's those things that make us want to continue doing what we do, right?
Exactly. And, look, here's the irony in all of this is the fact that some of the hardest moments and some of the easiest moments can actually happen in the same, well, one, they happen in the same business, but two, they can happen actually in the same day.
Yeah,
I mean, have you ever had that before where
absolutely.
things were going tough and then all of a sudden it just brightened, and then things were
Yeah,
bright and all of a sudden it got tough? I mean, it can
yeah.
happen right in the same day.
That's part of life, right? My teacher from Japan used to always say, and it's kind of funny because people don't realize this, but in my logo of my school, it says LI Ninjutsu Centers, and there's like a lightning bolt, and then it connects, the lightning bolt connects to the word centers. That lightning bolt is really a heart monitor. And my teacher would say this: you have to have ups and downs in order to be able to know that you're alive and that you're still surviving. And he said, you're always going to have ups, you're always going to have downs. He says, when you flatline, like when it straightens out, that's when your heart flatlines. There's no beat. Up, down, right? When it flatlines, you're dead, right? So he says that's when you know things are bad. That's when businesses go out of business. That's when people, quit, whatever. But you're going to have those ebbs and flows of all different things.
Absolutely. And which one is true? Is it the hardest business or is it the easiest business? I would say both are true, right? I mean, that's really the truth.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, though, in retrospect, when it comes to on a scale of 1 to 10 kind of mindset, or whether it's a difficult business or 1 to 10, it's the easiest business. I don't know. Well, one, I don't know if any business is easy, right? But I think, though, that there are a lot of things that, like, for example, if you make yourself, I'm holding up my coffee cup, if you make yourself a cup of coffee, it's either good or bad, could be okay, right? And there's three options. If you own a coffee shop, the coffee's got to be good, or else we had a coffee shop we found in London, England. Every morning we went there. Oh no, it was in France. It was called Mercy Jerome, and it had the best cafe lattes ever. So we'd go there and start our day. It almost like they were like the regular, like they knew what we wanted. And the coffee was great, right? So, but if you run a martial arts school, there's so many factors in order to put the whole entire, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, the nucleus of everything together so that it runs perfect, where you have a perfect student who's not going to quit. And there's a lot of things. Sports are involved, and boredom gets involved, or the parent doesn't have what they want. There's a lot of factors that make this type of business difficult.
Yeah. And listen, if you're listening to this right now and you felt both, like both extremes, you're not crazy and you're not alone, and nothing is wrong. So don't think that
Right.
something is wrong. It's just really the nature of the business of what we actually do. Every school owner, I think, has experienced this, not just one time, but they've experienced it multiple times.
Yeah, I'm listening to a book right now on audio with Brian Tracy, and it's called, I'll tell you the exact name, I love Brian Tracy. I love all his books and stuff. And this is a new one that just came out. It's called Million Dollar Sales Habits or Million Dollar Habits. And at one point in the book, just recently today, when I was driving to meet my friends, he was talking about what we focus on tends to become what's more evident in our life or prevalent in our life. So if we're like, oh my God, I'm so fat, I'm so weak, I hurt, my body is, life is terrible. Like just like right now, like when I went to Europe and London and England and France, I went there thinking like, oh my God, the streets are dangerous. Be careful that, there's a lot of uprising. I went there. It was great. Like there was none of that stuff, so like it's what the news cycle is focused on, right? And what we hear every day, we tend to let that penetrate our brain and we start to believe that as a reality when in fact it's really not true. So in Brian Tracy's book, he talks about saying, I love myself. I'm a confident person. I'm doing great. My school's going to grow, right? And you keep saying that to yourself over and over again. And of course you work on things to make that true. But, it's important to have that positive self-image and self-attitude, or else you could easily decline quickly into the rabbit hole of negativity.
Exactly. And that's why it's one of the hardest businesses because, that's the emotional weight that we're dealing with. We're not just running a business, right? We're shaping lives, we're shaping characters of our
Right.
of our students, and every student's success or even failure feels personal,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning. I don't know about you, it's not as personal now, almost 3 decades into this, as it was when I first started. I wore everything on my sleeve, and the
Yeah.
pressure of being a role model 24/7. Do you get to take a day off? I mean, think about it, right?
Right. Right. No, I understand.
You're dealing with students' personal struggles. You're dealing with family issues. You're dealing with bullying, confidence, just all those problems in general, like even the heartbreak of a student quitting, or in your case, the one that died right
Right.
there on the floor.
Right.
I mean, those are emotional weights that we have to learn how to manage in a business. It's not like
Yeah.
when you just punched a clock at wherever you worked. It's because I can remember when I was a meat cutter. I would go in, punch the clock, do what I had to do, and leave. Did I have good days? Did I have bad days? Sure. But when I left, I left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything stayed there. But as the owner, the hard part is it never leaves you. Even when
Correct.
you leave the business is still in you. And so that emotional weight is with you 24/7, 365
Yeah.
days a year, except for a leap year, you got to add another day.
Right. Right. I was just saying this the other day. Like on my days off, I wake up and have a cup of coffee, watch a little TV, and come into my office and work. This is my day off. I call it a day off because I don't have to go into the school, but I'm working for 7 hours at my desk on the school. And even on a Sunday, like my wife said to me one day, she's like, are you going to work today on Sunday, or are you going to take off? Because she's trying to plan out her day. I'm going to get my eyebrows done, my fingernails and toenails done, that kind of stuff. And I'm going like, well, it depends. Like if you could help me stay on relax mode, right? And not let me get caught up into it. I love to just relax. And it was unbelievable. Again, I know I mentioned this a few times, but just going away and being so disconnected and not having a good internet connection. And, it was spotty at times. We were shut off from, we were just in that vacation mindset, lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch and dinner, sightseeing. We weren't like, okay, let me go in my office for a few hours and answer my emails. Like we weren't doing that. My wife brought her computer, but she really didn't work that much on her computer. She would just answer emails, so she didn't have a thousand of them when she got back. But we have to learn how to shut off, and that's important.
Yes, yes. And we wear every single hat too, especially when we
Yeah.
begin. So we're, not only are we the instructor, we're the janitor, we're the marketer, we're the accountant, we're the therapist, we're the salesperson, we're the social media expert. I mean, it's just all of those things. And I don't know if you remember the report that we put together. Yeah. It's escaping me. The manifesto that we put together.
Right.
the
Yeah.
Martial Arts Manifesto. But we had that one image that showed all of the different hats that we wear
Right.
as a martial arts school owner.
Yeah.
We're teaching classes until 8 o'clock at night or whatever, but we're sending emails out even at 11 p.m. like whatever it is.
Right.
And if you don't do it, what happens? It just doesn't get done.
Yeah, and you know what I find too is obviously we have employees and staff members, right? And we tend to still take on the burden, right? Like, so when I was away, I had two events running. We have our Halloween party this Friday, and I had a pink belt, Ninjas Wear Pink for breast cancer fundraiser. And I came back and, they sold a few, signups a few, here and there. And I got back on last Monday and I literally went to work right away on that. And that night I signed up like 10 people for my Halloween party. I had sold another 12 or 15 belts for the fundraiser. Like, it's amazing what we can do because who we are and how we've been living our whole lives doing it, how easy it is for us to get it done. We have to train people to be like us, but that's the frustrating part, man. No one seems to ever be like us, and that's the problem. If I get to have one person like me, I could step away. I have one that has a little bit of the character traits, another one has a little bit of the character traits, but even with two, I haven't even put together a quarter of what I do and who I am and how come I was successful for the last 34 years.
Well, and that goes along with wearing the hats because we're trying to create leaders that can take different positions in our organization. The other thing too is we're managing parent challenges, right?
Oh my
Parents
God.
who expect their kid to be a black belt in 12 months.
Right.
Why does my kid want to, why does my kid want to quit? Those type of conversations. Parents who actually question your standards or even the way that you're doing things like the curriculum and the lesson plan and all those things. Or nowadays we're dealing with entitlement, the instant gratification culture. We kind of talked about that in our last podcast, the instant gratification stuff. Or because maybe you don't get this often, but sometimes you'll get some parents who have been in martial arts before. And so what do? Whatever their experience was, they expect that same exact experience for their kid when you're running a different program, right?
Or like how it was back then, they still think it's that way. Their memory says it's still happening now. Like I've had old students that have come back and then they train now and they're like, oh, it's not like it was back then. It's almost like my mom before she passed away. She was 88 years old and she had dementia. And I would say, Mom, you can't drive. I've done it my whole life and I could still do it. I'm like, no, you're 88 now. You haven't been 88 your whole life. It's like these students that come back with the memory that they could flip and do this stuff and they healed quickly because they were in their 20s and now they're in their 50s and they're like, oh my God, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and they blame it on us. It's not the same. No, you're not the same. And that's okay. But you can't blame the school. Let's just take it from here as if you just started now and we'll build you up again.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing too that makes it hard is that, retention is a consistent battle because we're competing with other sports. We're competing with screen time, busy schedules, the convenience culture, right?
Yeah.
Students who ghost you when you're like, hey, where you been? What's going on? Everything okay? The drop off rate at different times, maybe it's a 3-month drop off rate, a quick, 6-month drop off rate, like wherever the plateau is before they get to black belt. We all have that, and can we do everything right? No.
Right.
But even if we could, are we still going to lose students? Yeah.
Yes.
And especially in the beginning, the emotional toll, that investment that it makes on someone, because we make that investment and then they walk away. Like that investment that we make on someone, that emotional toll takes a toll on us, especially in the beginning. It's not, to me, it's not as much as it used to be.
Right.
Almost 3 decades into this.
Yeah.
How about you? Is it the same emotional toll?
No. And like I look at it in terms of how long it takes me to get over it. right? Like, so, like, I'm like, oh, it used to sometimes take me 6 months. I'm still talking about that person who did this and did that. Right now, it's like 2 days, if that. And that would have to be a major connection. And it takes me 2 or 3 days and then I'm over it. I mean, I'm never really truly over it. In my mind, in my waking state, I'm over it, but I will wake up in the middle of the night and not be able to sleep because I find my mind is behind what my conscious state is, that, the sleep state, and I'm still thinking about it, even though that I am mentally am over it. But yeah, it's much easier now than it ever was.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, that's with everything. Friendships, relationships, family. Like, I get over things a lot quicker. I've just gotten to become an expert at it.
Yeah. And I think that rightly so, we have to get to those positions. And how about the invisible work that no one sees? So the curriculum
Oh
planning,
my God.
program development, the late night administrative work, especially if
Yeah.
you work in a day job, right?
Yeah.
The weekend administration work, the cleaning, the maintenance, the facility management, your consistent marketing, your community outreach, that you got to make sure that you stay relevant with
Right.
everybody, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention the financial stress and
Hmm.
and cash flow management. That was, to me, that was one of the biggest things when I bought my partners out, is I didn't understand cash flow. Boy, did
Yeah.
that get me in a bad position. But all of that really takes a mental toll, on you. And then how some of us, not everybody, but some of us, remembering every student's name,
Yeah.
remembering personal situations
Yeah.
with them, because everybody's abilities are different, but those are stresses. That's the invisible work
Yeah.
that nobody sees, that we got to remember everybody's name. And like, I had a student on Monday night. She was doing a jump roundhouse kick and she came down and she twisted her ankle. So I waited, and then last night I gave their family a phone call, just to say, hey, how's Autumn doing? And they were already in bed because it was later in the night, and I got, it wasn't until like 8:30 when I was able to call, and they were in
Yeah.
bed, but they messaged me this morning. But I mean, I had to remember to do that, and quite
Yeah.
frankly, I had to. This sounds horrible. I had to put it in my schedule to remember to call them,
Right.
so I didn't forget it. Like, how bad is that?
No, that's not bad.
But
You
no,
can't.
but you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but I know that I have to do that in order.
Right.
So that's invisible work that nobody sees.
Right.
And how about real burnout?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so true. Who's not experienced real burnout?
Right. Yeah, not anyone that runs a school, even if it's a part-time thing. And many factors contribute to burnout, right? Like, so you could love teaching, which I do. And I had a class not too long ago that I was absolutely, with my adults, that's like my 14 on up to like 60. And at the end of the day, I was so pissed off. I said because they weren't listening, they weren't bowing, they weren't being respectful. They were talking while I was talking. And these are people that were like senior ranks that know better, right? So what happens with that kind of stuff is, being that I'm not there as much, they tend to do it with my other instructor and get away with it. So they think that it's okay. And then I come in and I'm a hard nose, and I feel like I go home. Like that night I came home, I felt like everyone ended up hating me more. And I didn't care though, because I was like, how dare you? I go, you have no idea. You're standing in this building. This is just to give them a little insight. I go, I bought this building. I renovated the building. I put tens of thousands of dollars into maintaining the building. And I built this beautiful school for you. And it's my curriculum, my knowledge. Everything you see here is something that I developed. How dare you talk while I'm talking? Or how dare you not listen and be respectful? Like, what are you missing? Like, did I do such a poor job at teaching this to you guys? Or you guys just think you could get away with murder? And that's a difficult thing, because that's not why I'm in the business. That's not why I started teaching. I did it to teach martial arts and teach respect and teach honor and integrity. And this newer generation doesn't really understand what's important when it comes to that. And I say newer generation, even the parents of younger kids, they don't get it because they weren't raised on it. So it's a tougher time nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I can remember giving everything I had, all the energy out on the floor. When I teach, I teach. I don't just
Right.
like hey, do this, do that. I mean,
Right.
I am emotionally involved.
Yeah.
And then, I give everything else or give everything to those students, and then I have
Yeah.
nothing left for myself. Like,
Mm.
I can remember nights that my wife would, I'd come home and it would be 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And she's like, why were you gone so late? It's like, I need a half an hour.
Right.
Like, I didn't understand it,
Yeah.
but I needed to decompress.
Yeah.
So there's physical exhaustion, there's mental exhaustion, all of those things. So burnout is real. And how about the modern day business challenges as well?
Right.
Because we didn't have to deal with most of this when we first opened. You didn't have a website. You didn't have, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
websites were just becoming a thing when I first opened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
you
had
got to
one
keep
of the
up.
first websites out there.
You got to keep up with technology, marketing, uh,
Social media posts,
YouTube,
Instagram,
like,
Facebook, YouTube, like it's endless, right? When it comes to, like, I write down, I have a list on my thing, and I'm like posted on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, website, app, like I just go through the 5 or 6 things that I had. It used to be, we just taught and it was fine. Like, now we have to do that on top of the other stuff. And it does
and you
take
would
a lot of work.
you would when you had an event, you just made a bulletin board announcement, and you made an announcement in class. You had a little flyer,
Yeah.
and you handed it out. But now,
And everyone came.
right?
Nowadays, you gotta, like, I literally feel like I'm selling. Like, I'll give you a quick example. And this was like 20 years ago this happened. I would put out a newsletter. So I wrote this kind of crafty, fun article. And the article was like, what if you could take a pill and it could give you, self-confidence, self-esteem, focus, self-control, blah, blah, blah. Let's say the pill costs $10 a week, right? And so when the article was all about, like, you don't need to take a pill, you're coming to the dojo, that's your magic pill. I think that's what it was called, the magic pill. So when I asked people, how'd you like my article on the magic pill? People said, oh, I didn't read it. I don't take pills. I'm like, and I'm like, did you even read like the first line? No, I didn't read it because, I'm not going to buy a whole new network marketing of pills and I'm like, dude, are you kidding? You just read the article, and they didn't read it because they assumed from the whatever opening that it was something that it totally wasn't. But I played it that way a little, but nowadays, if you don't catch their attention in the first 20 words, you're screwed, right? And you got to make sure that I keep talking about you and I, we should write that book called Breaking the Third Wall and talk about how do you get through. People hear you, but there's different ways of saying that. They hear you, but they don't listen, or they listen, but they don't hear. And you always say it's penetrating through that last quarter inch of the skull into the brain, getting them to really listen. I'll talk to them blue in the face sometimes, right? And it seems like they're listening. They're nodding in all the right times and seem like they're smiling and happy. And then they walk away. And I'm almost like, I feel like Rocky in Rocky 1, where he's talking to that girl and giving her a motivational speech. And then he walks away. She goes in her apartment. She comes out and yells, "Hey, Rock." And he turns around proud, like he reached her. And she goes, "Hey, Rock, screw you." And she slams the door and he's like totally defeated. I feel like Rocky a lot when that happens.
Yeah.
I give him a life speech, how I did this, and doesn't matter. Like, so it is in regard. Then there, those are 4 or 5 people that it impacted that I never will know. Like, oh my God, that story changed their lives forever. But the other 22, they could care less. So that's the good and the bad, right? There are those. Yeah. Those are the people we do it for that it impacts. But it's a little challenging.
It is. So let's lighten the load a little bit. Let's kind of talk about some of the easiest, why this is the easiest business, So some of the parents that we get in, they're desperate, right? They want their kid to have the discipline, the respect, the focus. Also, martial arts has a credibility already implanted in it. Mm-hmm. There is a cultural appeal. They know that martial arts helps with focus and discipline and respect. So that the media or the TV or martial, however that message got out, we already have that.
Yeah,
to our advantage, right?
definitely, without a
Um,
doubt.
I would say too that this really is a low overhead business to get into. There's not a lot of inventory in the beginning that you need, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
know like for us when we first started, we didn't even have mats. We were on carpet,
right,
you
right.
know, and I bought $500 worth of equipment, and
Yeah,
then so there. And in fact, when we first that was our first location, but when we first started, we were just renting a space at a gymnasium in a school.
right.
So there are some, low overhead, simple operational things, minimal equipment, like I said. It's not like a retail store where you have, especially, like a grocery store, there's no food, there's no, stuff there's no
Yeah,
perishable goods. Uh,
inventory.
yeah, or even seasonal
Right.
issues that you have, because even in a retail business where you have clothing that's only seasonal, you got to get rid of it in that time. So, um, and some other positives that we have is it really is we have reoccurring revenue. So the
Right.
model is a membership based income, which really does provide stability and to I would say to a point predictability as
Yeah.
well. You know,
Yeah.
we get the opportunity to have long term relationships with students. Consistent month after month after month.
Hmm.
Um, and when you get to dial in, you can actually have multiple streams of income. So you have your classes. If you charge testing fees or you do
Hmm.
camps, events, your favorite thing to talk about is retail sales,
Yeah.
merchandise,
Yeah.
private lessons, etc. All of those things have a reoccurring model because they're cyclical. We can do them over and over and over again.
Right.
And really, if done right and with the right student, once the student enrolls, they're engaged for years. And
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but because of the way that we have things set up, we often have multiple family members that
Right.
enroll, their other child or two other children, or the parent doesn't with them.
Right. No, I love it. I think you're right. I wrote an article years ago called "There's Gold Under Those Tatami Mats," and I said it in I wanted it to be said in like a southern twang, like they're gold under the tatami mats, like that kind of thing. And I think that's important, So we understand that, it's there's so much, but again, here's the thing: all the things you mentioned just makes the business bigger. Like if it was just a model where we come in and we teach, they would, maybe you would charge for testing, they'd pay their tuition, you'd go home. Now we add in all these other factors like parents' night out. So not only do we have to develop a flyer, develop a checkout page, develop an actual event, and then now sell it to the parents and the students, and then do the event. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now if you have retail, you could put things on the wall, or you can have retail tied into your curriculum where at white belt they get sparring gear, at yellow belt they get bow and sai and all these different things. So it's super, super important for us to realize that there are systems involved, and all of these things could definitely, build a school and make money. So anyway, like, what about too, like, the fulfillment factor, like, you're doing work right now, you want to be reminded that you are doing good work, right? Like you are changing lives. Like no matter what, and even if it's only 5 out of 25, those 5 people's lives will be absolutely impacted. For example, when I was in school, hated everything about school. I've had some really bad teachers in my lifetime, right? Like, I mean, bad, like they were just not even good at teaching, but they were just bad people. And then again, maybe they weren't, and I was a bad student, right? Like, and that's why they treated me poorly. But I mean, I think that we have to really understand and remind ourselves that we're doing work that genuinely matters and changes lives, right? You gotta sometimes remind yourself that, you started this because you liked teaching, you liked sharing, you liked helping people. You wanted to, I equate it to like being like a preacher. You're sharing the word of God. Well, you're sharing your instructor's curriculum. You're sharing the philosophies and the history and the culture of what you do. And that stuff will stay with people for their lifetime. You mentioned before about student breakthroughs, that those things you have to maybe write them down. And, like I remember years ago, I used to have a thing on my desk for all the positive things, letters and things like that. So when I get into a negative funk or mood, I would open up that folder and just look at all the letters and how people grew and thanks from people and cards and things of that nature. So you have to really remind yourself that, that passion and why you do what you do. And then try to get immediate feedback and gratification, ask people. Read test. Spark is great because people could fill out a class review and survey and they leave a testimonial right on Spark. Quite often I'll read that and go, wow, that's cool. I didn't realize that Diana was having such a good time and she's practicing at home 3-4 days a week as well. Right. And then last, when former students, I had this happen just the other day. A guy brought in a pair of Psy that he no longer needed. And so one of my students got me out of class, said, oh, someone here wanted to give you these Psys. So I went out and I recognized the person, but it was an adult of the person I recognized as a kid. He's a doctor in the area and a pediatrician in the area. And I said to him, what's your name again? I recognize you. So he told me his name and I'm like, holy crap, I remember you and your 6 brothers and sisters used to train with me. He goes, yeah, I'm a doctor in the area and I wanted to bring this back and I wanted to say thank you because you're, and he only trained as a kid up until like purple belt. And he goes, your training, your classes had a big impact on my life, making it through school, not quitting, during me getting my medical degree and so on. So when they come back and talk to you, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, that is the fulfillment factor, right?
Yeah.
How about community and loyalty? So, you're building a tribe. If you stop and think about it, you're building a tribe. It's not just a customer base, and students and families really, if done well, they become lifelong friends.
Yeah,
don't they? They also become lifelong advocates of your program, and so that with that strong school culture, really, there's not a lot of selling that's going on. The culture actually sells when you do it, and
right.
Referrals come more and more naturally because they're going to talk about with you about your program and maybe even you to other individuals.
Yeah.
And really, what it does is that I think it brings the tribe together. It really makes this support of your community even through tough times. I mean, how many times have you had things happen? Again, I'll go back to what I originally said. When that instructor had killed those people, I thought I lost my business. I'm done. I'm over with. I had contacted a friend of mine. He helped me craft, another business owner. He helped me craft a letter to the students or to the parents. I had my wife there when the parents would pull up. Classes were canceled that next day. She was handing out the letters, and then we had my mom helped me get a social worker in for the next few classes to talk with people about it, and so much. It was such a big community that what happened was, even though he did that, there was a huge core of us that went to his wake and funeral.
Right.
I mean, think about that. So the community, the tribe that you create, and his kids still went to the studio. That was the other factor I didn't say before.
Yeah.
And so you're making this, you're creating this tribe of people that are following what you're doing and believing. So there's a lot of community and loyalty. I mean, those are positive things.
Yeah.
And I think too, running a martial arts school kind of gives us, especially if you do it right, flexibility in your schedule, a lifestyle that you can kind of control your hours. I know maybe from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock you can't. But there's times. I mean, you get the mornings off so you can attend events with your kids if they're in school. You don't have a corporate boss.
Right.
You're not stuck to the rigid 9 to 5. You can design your business how you want. To eventually fit whatever lifestyle. And in the beginning, yes, I was open 6 days a week. You were open 6 days a week, right? You probably still are. I don't know, but I'm not. I'm open 5 days a week. I only have Monday through Thursday are my classes. Friday nights are open mat. But I also close for different holidays, so there's a freedom to make my own decisions and run it how I want to run it. I mean, that is a positive thing about our business, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, I as long and also if you build the right team, you have the ultimate freedom. Ultimately, the job is about, working on your business, not in your business, right? And in order to do that, you have to have systems, and then you could scale from there, right? And I think that's something that we tend to forget because we get caught into what I call Michael Gerber from the book The E-Myth calls it the trap of being the technician trap. Like, I'm the guy, and by the way, I get it because, even with me, like, I'm seeing a technique being performed. I'm going, that's not how I taught it. That's not how I remember it being. That's not how it is, So you got to learn to develop systems and have those systems that they are repeatable and you could do them over and over again, or they can be done by anybody without any error. So
but that's a positive thing about our business is that we can actually create those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at it like, you could standardize your curriculum and you could teach others to teach it, right? It's like, that's what I think is a big issue in the public school systems, that there is material to teach. And this is what they need to teach. They push it across the table and teach. And not everyone is learning how to teach, how to become a good teacher, right? So I think that, martial arts schools are great at that, teaching students how to become dynamic teachers and instructors and assistants and helpers so that we replicate what we want to go out there, the information, we want to get it out there, right? And then, once you have that team, you could separate yourself out. Like, I'm not bragging, but for 10 days, 12 days, I was out of the dojo. And I got a text at night, classes went well, blah, blah, blah. No, I told them, don't bring me any bad stories that's going to keep me up at night. If it's something that you could handle, you handle it, right? If it's that bad and you really need my advice, then reach out to me. But if not, handle it. You're in charge. I want you to make sure that it works and you fix it and the problem is solved, right? And then, of course, you have to, maybe if you want to, it is not for everyone. You can scale from one location to multiple locations, but that takes a special mindset. And there's a lot that goes into that. I think people just think, hey, I'm making good money here at school A, I'll open school B, and then they think they'll make double the money. And what happens is really the school A suffers and school B struggles, and now you're making less than you were at one school. So don't always jump right into multiple locations unless you're there. There are a few things we could go over. If you ever want to talk about this, reach out to me. But there are a few things that you really need to do in order to succeed in multiple locations.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think those are the main things that, we are lucky with. Systems and scalability is important.
Yeah. And I also think too, it's rewarding in way more than, way more than money can actually measure. Right. So what I mean by that is a shy kid now can be a confident leader.
Right.
Seeing the struggles of certain students, and then they overcome those struggles and they become a black belt, right? You never thought, I have kids that I thought, man, there's no way they're going to make it to black belt. And then they do, right?
Yeah.
Parents thanking you, right? For making a difference, in their child's life, bringing, something, well, really being genuinely proud of something that you are sharing and pouring into. And, if you want, leaving some sort of legacy for your community. I mean, those are all real, tangible, or maybe not tangible, but they're real things that make a tangible difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you're building something that you could, and it's our baby. Our school is our baby. It's what we do, right? It's what we love. Whatever system it is that you come up with, it's your system. Like, I have many systems that are actually, I share with my coaching clients that are shared around the world. And I'm proud to see, like, even my little warrior characters, Eagle, Bear, and Wolf. There's a school in Australia that follows the same sticker system, and they have the Eagle, Bear, and Wolf, eyes of an eagle, ears of a wolf, heart of a bear, and then we have the Mighty Warrior, which are older kids, is the owl, fox, and cheetah. In fact, I have them on my wall behind me. I have the characters in like these little plastic characters that kids could, they're collectibles. So it's definitely something that really could hit home. So we're running out of time. So you want to start wrapping up, but we could start talking about,
Yeah. So the real answer, if we think about it, after everything we talked about, all the hard parts, all the easy parts, the honest truth is it's both, right? It might sound like a cop out, but it really is. It isn't. It's both. And that's the reality of the business that we're in, right? Running a martial arts school. The same thing that makes the business incredibly hard is often the exact same thing that makes the business incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, no doubt. And exactly. And I think that's what makes this business so unique as well, right? The emotional investment that we put in, that the stuff that exhausts us are also the same things that fulfill us, right? And when we pour our hearts into anything, we put it into our students, and and they quit, that's depressing and it bothers us. Or when we pour our hearts into students that are genuinely, or the families that genuinely care, and they tell you how much you've impacted them, that's what motivates us as well. But when same level of care leads to breakthroughs, like, when you put in that time and effort into that person and you see the results and they're positive, when a kid transforms, or an adult transforms right in front of you. I had a student who was in his 60s and he retired, and then he would tell me how he used to use all the martial art class lessons that I'd talk about in his corporate environment and share it with his employees, and they absolutely loved the stories and the lessons. And he would share my leadership lessons in the boardroom. So when you see that happen, it's just incredible. You got to just focus on the positive.
Right. And I think school owners get frustrated because they're waiting for it to get easier. They think,
right,
once I get this enrollment number, or once I hire this person, or once the system is in place, it'll be easier. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, and when it does shift, right? We have to understand, because there's always going to be a difference in brand new school owners who are drowning and seasoned school owners who are thriving, or vice versa. I was at the Spark convention, and a guy said to me, I've been doing this a long time. I have $4 million schools that make $1 million each school. I go, how long you been doing it? I'm waiting for him to say, he looked young, I'm waiting for him to say, like, since he was a baby. Oh, I've been doing this for 9 years. I mean, what, like total of 9 years running the school? No, 9 years entirely. I trained, I started, I opened, I'm like, damn you, I want to punch you in the face right now, right? For being so successful in that short amount of time. But I'm really proud of him. So when it does shift, because I do know there's a difference between that person, that school owner, or the seasoned school owner, make sure you recognize the changes.
Yeah. And I think the first big shift happens when you get the right systems in place, when you stop reinventing the wheel every single day, when you documented the processes for enrollment, for billing, for curriculum, for parent communication, when automation handles the repetitive stuff, and then you can actually work on the business of it, instead.
Yeah. And, we talked about building a strong team. I mean, that's a huge thing. If you want to pull yourself out and get to the point where, like, I have so many friends that are older, like my one friend that we went out to dinner with, he's 78 years old. He retired and sold his school, but he still teaches 1 day a week. He teaches 5 classes. But you need to build a strong team. You can't be the only person, and you can't teach every single class, or do all the sales or all the lead generation. And so when you have a staff who actually shares your vision, and that,
that's
by the
key.
way, that's, oh my God, that we probably could do a whole thing on how to get your staff to share your vision, right? But that's a whole nother podcast. But that's when delegation becomes possible, and more importantly, that's when you'll see yourself feeling a weight lifted, and you'll be able to do more, have more freedom, and you trust your delegation with people that will do what you ask and do it well and want to do it to the best of their ability.
Absolutely. And here's another big one is clarifying your vision and your ideal student. So when you stop trying, to be everything to everyone,
Right.
when you know exactly who you serve best, and you're okay with saying no to some families who, they're not the right fit, they can't afford you, that changes everything, I think.
Yeah, that's so true, Duane. I mean, that's, when your marketing attracts the right families, right? And let me repeat that again. Your marketing attracts the right family. So what the ad says and what you're looking for has to be what you want, right? You're not chasing every possible enrollment that you could get, because if you do, you'll have a blend of people, and like a good portion of them will not be good for your school, right? So I'd much rather be like my buddy, change his entire outlook on his school, and he'll tell people when they come in, and if the kid doesn't listen or the parents don't seem to answer correctly when he says, what will you do if they want to quit? I don't know, we don't really push our kids. It's okay, I don't think you're the right fit for us. What do you mean we can't come? No, I just don't think you're the right fit, because you said you won't push them, you'll let them get away with it, blah blah blah. So he starts to from the day one starts to clarify who he wants, and he'll only take who he wants.
Well, and he's building the right culture, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So much. And and the right culture does so much of the heavy lifting and work, because that culture will breed other people of like-minded mentality.
Totally agree. And when you let go of perfection, that's a big one for me, not trying to be perfect, everything to everybody, right? And finally accept that, some students are going to quit, and it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Right. When you stop, I would say, taking every cancellation personally, wearing it on your sleeve, when you realize that, good enough is actually better than being perfect and being exhausted.
Yeah. And look, I had a parent just recently, their kid's up for renewal, and I had told them that the prices went up $10. And man, did they give me a hard time. Well, so my friend is paying less than that. I go, yeah, they got in on the price before you, but right after you. So their price was a little bit more, but they're not as much, a $10 increase. And oh my God, I said, listen, I understand $10 is $120 a year. But if you feel that we're valuable enough to keep your child in the program, then I would say think about it and keep them there. I don't know if we're going to renew. I said, that's your choice. I'm not going to let that bother me, because I felt like if you don't feel that we're worth $10 more a month, you'll spend that on Starbucks or a toy or go out somewhere to dinner, and you'll spend 3 or 4 months worth of tuition increases on a dinner. So anyway, long story short, it's something that you should allow in, and you got to give yourself permission to rest as well. Don't feel guilty about taking days off. Some of my school friends don't like to close. I had one of my friends who thought it was cool. He's on, it's Christmas Eve, and guess where we are? We're working out. And I wrote on the bottom, it's Christmas Eve, and guess what I'm doing? I'm watching a movie with my family. People will come, some will show up, the crazy ones, but you also need to rest. You got to take a break at times.
Yeah, that's important. And look, finding your community of fellow school owners who get it. That understand what you're going through, right? When you stop, I think sometimes when you stop feeling alone in the struggle, when you have the right community around you, that community can actually help, and it gives you an opportunity to share your defeats and your victories without judgment, by the way. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, dude. And I mean, by the way, we're overtime a little bit, right? So we literally could keep on going. I know that we have in our mental notes, when you and I were laying out what we want to talk about, we have like another hour and a half of stuff we could chat about. So maybe in a few weeks or a month or two, we'll jump back on and finish this off. But I think that it's really important that people listen and take to heart what we're saying, and pull things out that you feel are valuable, right? Don't just listen and forget about it. Sometimes listen, take notes and say, I like that one idea that Duane said, or that one idea that Allie said, I'm going to incorporate it. Like, for example, I was doing a coaching call yesterday with one of my clients, and we're talking about my system that I invented called the Perfect Attendance Reward System. And the person says, do you have any kind of chart that you could track who got perfect attendance so you could look at them in one place? I said, well, we could pull it up in a report on Spark. But I said, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to develop a chart, and then I'm going to print it and put the names of all the people who get a trophy every month. And I'm going to put it on the wall in the lobby so people can follow that. Like, oh my God, look, Johnny's getting perfect attendance. We got to make all our classes this month so you get it as well. So like, I got that from talking to a client, and I immediately put it into play. And that's what you guys should do when you're listening to the podcasts.
Agreed. So listen, if today's episode resonated with you, thanks for first of all being a part of the conversation. Do us a favor, inside of our group, even, share your hardest and easiest comments with us in our Facebook community. And if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast via whatever platform you're listening to this, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, please subscribe, share it with another school owner, leave us a review as well, because that obviously helps us too.
Yeah, and by the way, I started looking at our stats, and just on the podcast from streaming, iTunes, Spotify, all those things, we have over 50,000 people who've listened to our podcast, and that doesn't include where they listen on Facebook or on Google or on YouTube, right? Like, so it's pretty powerful. We're not Joe Rogan by any means, where he gets millions of listeners, but it's a super popular thing. And we're in, there's over 100 countries of people that listen to our podcast, right? All over the world, from different languages. In Japan is big, and other countries, especially like the big ones are like the France. The United States, of course, is our biggest crux, but we have the UK, United Kingdom, Australia, Japan, Canada. Like, there's a lot of listeners from all over the world. So you and I are world famous when it comes to our podcast, right? So I love that. I love that it's helping others.
Agreed. And that's why we started in the beginning, right?
Yes.
That's why I approached you. I'm like, look, I want to give back to the industry that gave so much to me. So,
Yep.
Until next time, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Duane. Talk to you really soon. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Now that's a wrap. Another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk is in the vast library. We appreciate you tuning in and being part of this incredible community. A huge thank you to everyone who makes this podcast possible, including our sponsors, such as EliteInsights.com, your go-to high-performing website company for martial arts schools, LeadHunterMedia.com, your expert in digital media and content creation for martial arts schools, AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners unlock a powerful revenue stream by providing the tools and framework to become a health coach. Thanks again for joining us. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share our show with other school owners and friends. See you on the next episode.